Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 2nd of February 2022. Coming to you live from Norfolk on the east coast of England with Tammy M0DC.
Hello.
And me, David G7ERP. Great to see you. On tonight's show, more on the GM3SEK Mains filter. Have you built yours yet? Join us by Zoom, BATC or Facebook. And how about this for a green use for used COVID tests? And we find out what on earth this is.
Okay, I'm talking to you first tonight for a bit of different. I don't think my microphone's up high enough. Right, okay. I should read actually what I'm about to say. So I haven't rehearsed this, sorry. This show's not going well to start with, is it?
Not really.
Okay, here is a film that David and I took on Saturday morning. Very blowy, so here you go.
Some good news to start.
Some good news, yeah, here you go.
We're outside the house of someone who's a well-known and popular member of Norfolk Amateur Radio Club, Sonny, M0SYW, because just a couple of weeks ago he got married. And although we didn't make much of it at the time, we know he's there. He knows we're coming, but he doesn't know why. So we're now going to see him and hopefully Mrs. Ward. So follow me. Do you think they're just married by any chance? He's seeing us, he's seen us. One of the troubles with these video doorbells, they can see us coming before we get here. Anyway. Do you think so? I think so as well. Let's anyway. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. Do step outside a little bit, please.
Good morning.
Is this Mr. and Mrs. Ward?
It is, yes.
And you look like you're just up. I'm sorry, but this is 11 o'clock in the morning. We did agree. I don't want to be rude. Anyway, look, many congratulations. You'll know why we're here. We're not just here as David and Tammy. We're here for Norfolk Amateur Radio Club.
Of course you are.
And a big congratulations to you both. We didn't do this before your wedding because that didn't seem right. So we thought you'd have your wedding
and it could have
and your
been
honeymoon.
cancelled last
Well,
minute. It was very good. We managed it and we had a fantastic day. So.
13th of January, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So how was the wedding then? And firstly, where was the wedding?
The wedding was at Southwood Hall, which is over near Cantley, for those of you that are from around Norfolk. Sort of Acle and turn right and you sort of get to Cantley, you've gone too far. Beautiful venue, sort of barn type environment. Yeah, Charlotte went to a Christmas party for her previous corporate company about 9 years ago, and she said we're getting married here. So it took my sweet time in getting there, but we're very good, and yeah, had a really fantastic day.
How long has it taken, really, Charlotte?
13 years.
That's how long you've been together?
Yes. We got married on our 13th anniversary.
Really?
So he doesn't remember another date.
And it was the 13th as well, wasn't it? So was that just good coincidence or meant to be?
Just it was.
The stars aligned.
Yeah, we went to a wedding, a COVID wedding in late July last year in 2021, and we both got talking, and it was just like we'd got the house and we were ready, and it was like everything that we'd talked about all worked out, all lined up, and here we are. So yeah. So an engagement in July and the wedding in January.
And it must have been a bit nerve-wracking just before Christmas when nobody was really sure what was going to happen.
Yeah.
If it happened like last Christmas.
You had a few...
My mum got COVID on Christmas Day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But then we were happy that she got it on Christmas Day and not 13 days later or whatever.
Wow.
So that was good. And your brother had it before Christmas.
Yeah, so my brother, we were meant to be hosting for Christmas to have 12, and we ended up with 5 because of everybody isolating and being on their own and everything.
They were obviously unwell, but they were very lucky. It was just like temperatures and stuff. So, and no one we got everyone to lateral flow before the day.
Yeah. And
we only had 45 people in a venue that can hold 200. So we had already downsized and everything.
Yeah. So we put the precautions in, and
so at the wedding, I know it's important for the man. It was important for me, and I'm sure it was me too. But for the lady, it's a very special day. Did it meet all your expectations,
Oh
Charlotte?
yeah. Oh, apparently I was the calmest bride they've had until 2 minutes before.
Oh right.
And I'm sure you'll see eventually the wedding video. I canter down the aisle.
You cantered down.
My dad had to pull me back because
Really?
I was walking too fast.
Is that just because you wanted to get it done and you?
I was like, okay, let's go.
Oh, lovely.
And part of the untradition, we had what's called a first look, which is where me and Charlotte have a moment to ourselves before the ceremony and just see each other in our outfits and just go with it. And I was standing out on the back of it because it was January and we had the most beautiful, sunny, bright day that you could possibly imagine, unlike today. And this is what we were expecting, but we had this beautiful blue sky day. So I stood out on this rear patio and I could hear her gallop across the patio, and the photographer told her to stop, turn around, and go back because she was so keen to come and see me. So it made me smile and chuckle, and it was really, really.
But surely we can forgive that if you've waited 13 years and you didn't want to give him a chance to be any later, or.
And your deepest sin video of when we're signing the registrar, there's
a horrible photo, and I look like I've gone, ha ha ha, I've got him now.
Yeah, we're pretending to sign the register, and Charlotte's just looked up in the camera, down the lens, and you've got this deep resented, ha ha, he's mine now type look. It really, really.
I know that feeling. I had exactly the same, I must say.
So that was quite
well,
nice.
I wonder, while we will be playing this out, we'd love to show pictures as well of your wedding, if you don't mind sharing some of them with us.
Yeah, sure.
That would be lovely as well. And then, of course, after the wedding, the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Again,
Scotland.
where did you go? In Scotland?
Yes, Loch Earn,
There we go.
which is near Stirling.
Correct.
And it was on the loch, and we had a little place on our own, hot tub, so that was very nice.
So, yeah, spent 7 days of the honeymoon in a hot tub and chilled out beside the loch.
lovely.
And once
we
again,
went to a whiskey distillery.
yeah, went to a
We got some
whiskey tour.
whiskey, and we went to Stirling Castle. And Sonny took me up some snow roads that were quite scary because there's a sheer drop next to me, but
It's fine. And that all worked out very well. So had a really fantastic time again, and couldn't believe the weather, unbelievably.
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
it was warmer
For
in
the whole week,
Scotland.
really?
It was warmer in Scotland than when we got home on Friday.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.
And
For Scotland,
it
isn't it?
only rained like 4 hours one afternoon in the whole week that we were up there. So couldn't honestly unbelievable weather for that week in January. It was unbelievable. So,
That is fantastic. Well, look,
thank you ever so
you
much.
can see I've got this under my arm. We would love you to open this, both of you, in front of us now.
My postman is
We may just have,
here.
yes,
I'll
we may
just
just
have a
have
short
to.
interlude.
Okay.
Oh, it's heavy.
Nothing happening here. All right. Well, you could make a start before he gets back. That was the postie.
Nothing fun.
Our friendly neighbourhood posting. No, nothing fun, my darling. I think all the congratulations. Well, apart from this, you open it because you know what it's like.
Oh, I can't. Here we go.
And I must say, at this point, nobody at home knows what this is either. But this is from the club for you two.
Can you hold it?
Yeah.
A bit of help in some way.
Someone did a very
You
good
could,
job.
well, you could tell that
Is
it's
this
the
Tammy?
woman of our house
Is
did the wrapping.
Is this the
So
fantastic producer, camera woman?
yeah, exactly. Can you have a? Do you want to get closer, Tammy, or?
Oh wow.
So, yeah, you did see as well. What this is, I'm afraid it's not Scottish, but it is Welsh slate made by a Welsh company in Wales, and it's hopefully something that you can either put on your table to put things on, or just
it's
use to serve
beautiful.
tea and things like that. So,
Oh, that's
you very
honestly
much.
fantastic. Thank you
Yeah,
ever so
it's
much.
beautiful.
well, we're really pleased. And Sonny, you know, we mustn't pick anybody out in the club, but you are someone who's helped so many.
Thank you.
I know that everybody would have wanted us to do a surprise for you and mark your wonderful event. So thank you for what you've done, and congratulations on your wedding.
Can we go
and
to
have
Sonny?
a wonderful, wonderful life together. And I was always soft here, but if there's anything as happy as Tammy and I are, you'll be in for a lovely, lovely time. Congratulations, both of you.
Thank you ever so much.
Oh,
Wasn't that good?
That was
it
good.
lovely, lovely to see them. Yes, it was a couple of weeks late, if you like, but we felt this was the most appropriate thing, let them get back from honeymoon and everything else. So we hope you've enjoyed that, and we hope all of you members of NARC approve of the gift that we chose. And in fact, we can go now to Sonny live to his home. He's allowed out on his own.
Go.
And that is the very tray.
It is the very tray. I don't know how quality, if that's coming across.
I think
but,
that's quite good, Sonny. Thank
you.
you.
It is very much appreciated. It's a fantastic gift, and I was even served my dinner on it this evening, which is even better, isn't it? So that's
it's flipping
thank
heavy
you ever so
to
much.
do
I do really, really appreciate
Well,
it. And it is significantly heavy as well, so I've got to be careful as to what I say in case I get mauled over the head with it by my new XYL, shall we say.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, lovely to see you, Sonny. Actually, while you're there, I'll just read a few of the comments, that, in case you haven't kept over them on the social media. So we've got BATC, we've got Roger G3LDI. He says he didn't have shorts on at his wedding. And then he says...
I've lost David and Tammy. I don't know what's happened.
Oh,
I can't hear them.
Can you not hear us?
Waiting for you to give the speech, Sonny.
Yeah. Was there a full speech required? Or,
you can hear us? You can't hear us? Is
Hello?
that right? Can you not hear us, Sonny?
Talking Scottish slate.
The Scots have been out. I have no idea if I'm
I
still
think everybody
live
at
or
home
whether
can hear me.
My audio is live. Or...
No, you're live, Sonny. But
What's-
I'm sure that's a haggis platter.
I didn't. I was really upset. I had a whole week up in Scotland and I didn't have a single bit of haggis. I was really disappointed. It's one of my most favourite things, actually. I really do enjoy haggis. So I didn't get haggis, but obviously it wasn't lockdown, but we isolated to ourselves and kept out of the way, and we had a remote lodge and had self-catering, so we didn't go to any particular restaurants or anything like that. So
I wish you every blessing, Sonny, you and your dear lady.
thanks, Ralph. Cheers.
I'm not quite sure why Sonny can't hear us or couldn't hear us, but hopefully he can now.
You should be able to now.
You can hopefully hear us now.
I'm sorry, I had to change the audio settings because of feedback, but I'm going to have to go back in that computer and sort something out, I think, so bear with us.
It's a bit more complicated than it looks. I'm sorry, Sonny. But anyway, I would like just to read you a few comments that we've got on social media. So Roger G3LDI on BATC, he says he didn't have shorts on at his wedding, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And then he said, bet he had to hire the trousers. I think that was after he saw the pictures. And then on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Facebook, we have a couple of messages for you as well. From Roy Reed, congratulations to you both. Paul G3VPT, well done to you both. From John 2E0TWQ, congratulations as well. So there we are. But all of our blessings for you, and you know, and thanks once again for all you've done for the club. And it was just lovely to be able to buy you something and get you something rather special, hopefully, for your years together. And sorry to Ralph that it wasn't Scottish slate. I couldn't see any of that. Anyway, we better move on with some other news, but we'll be seeing Sonny later as well, probably when we go to the Zoom call. It's not too late to join that if you do want to, particularly if you've got a filter that you've built, by the way, and you'd like to join that. You can get the details on the bottom of the screen now, or you can also click on a link on the Norfolk Amateur Radio Club website, or if you had a Norfolk Amateur Radio Club newsletter in the last few days, you can click on the link there as well. On to other news then. So I mentioned at the beginning in the menu that we have found a novel use for used lateral flow test cases. Now, this is something that came to us from... sorry, Tammy.
Sorry, I got too many mice here.
We have
I've
got a few
problem,
things going
so-
on. Yeah, we've got a few things going on, which we'll show
Okay.
you later on. But here we are. This is something that Ken, M0KJW, sent us this picture. In fact, this is a website, a live website. And he found a rather useful... You look at the underneath the Altoids tin, classic thing used by radio amateurs. That is a Morse key, believe it or not. So actually, if we can scroll down a little bit, Tammy, please. You can see all this information is on there. And if you would like a link to this, it's quite a complex link. It's a WordPress website, but you can see how he made it there. Very good stuff. Really good use for that. I've seen some other uses as well. Someone was using the plastic cases as insulators for aerials and
I'm glad they
antennas and
took
stuff.
the litmus paper out first.
Yeah, all the other stuff. Yes, that's right. I'm not the only radio amateur. I must admit, after we'd done a few of those things, I did open one once to see what was in them, and I expect most people who are curious, radio amateurs tend to be curious beasts. But anyway, there's a really good use for one. Thank you very much, Ken, for sending us that. Next, we've got a picture that's been sent to us by Peter M0VRA, and if you know the answer to this, maybe you can tell us on BATC or Facebook. This is a picture on his television, and he says, can anybody out there explain why shining a bright light onto a LED television screen produces this prismatic image? It's much greater than the photo, which is limited to his camera. But I think my guess is it's something to do with Polaroid, because you do use polarization for LCDs, and even an LED TV, unless it's an OLED, is actually just really a liquid crystal screen with a backlit by LEDs instead of the old fluorescent lights. So if it's something like that, then that's my guess. Anyway, if you know different though, please pop it onto BATC or onto Facebook, and we'll pass that on, or we'll read it on the programme, or I'll pass it on to Peter later on if you know the answer to that. Hope you can all see and hear us now. We think we had a few issues. Tammy's doing all this while I'm chatting. She's hopefully sorting out any little problems that we've got on there. So I'll keep talking, and this is actually, it doesn't have a picture, so this is from Ivan, G7SNC, and he says, hi there everyone, just to like to announce my re-emergence to amateur radio since the onset of COVID and the dreaded lockdowns. What has sparked my interest is a little portable SDR receiver called a Macalite, designed in Russia, but like everything else, pirated and copied by the Chinese and sold profusely on eBay. What I want to know is, have any club members purchased one of these, and are they using it? I mainly want it for monitoring the VHF airband on AM. Any information gratefully received. So if you have heard of the Macalite, and even better if you've owned one, or either one of the original Russian ones or one of the copies, the clones, then maybe get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with Ivan, and you can give him some feedback before he parts with some hard-earned cash and things. How are things, Tammy?
I just need to, I don't know, the guys on Zoom, can you hear us now? I don't think you probably can. No, nobody's shaking their head. Okay.
Okay.
We have issues,
Well, we may try and look at that then.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Continue.
Is there anything you'd like me to do differently?
No, I don't know what we can do.
All right. That's strange, isn't it? We've never had a problem like that, I don't think, ever. We could just do this if you like. Just try that.
I don't, that's...
Could just
I
try
think that's
and see if that
not
makes
going
any
to do
difference.
anything.
Sorry about this, everybody at home, but we've got a few people on Zoom, and we think they may not be hearing us at the moment.
Ah, can you hear
You
us
can
now?
hear us now. You
Oh,
can. Oh,
okay.
good.
Excellent.
Okay, they've got their thumbs up. So, right, good.
Hang on, what about now? You hear us now still? Yep,
Good,
lovely.
okay.
Okay, we're sorted.
Sorry about that.
Great, thank you.
Anyway, this hobby's all about experimentation, and that's what we're doing right now. Good. Okay, so if you do join us on Zoom, you'll be able to hear us now, as well as we can hear you and see you. Now, I'd just like to tell you about something that, as you know, Tammy and I do once a month. It's called Tonight at 8. It's a webinar for the RSGB, and I think we've got a slide on that now, which Tammy's going to show you. Because this Monday, the 7th of February at 7 p.m, it's on something called the Russian woodpecker. Now, I guess if you're a certain age and you've been an radio amateur for some time, you might know what we're talking about here. But it's hidden deep in a serene forest, yet taller than the clouds, standing in surreal beauty, is an antenna array like none other on Earth, having an aperture greater than 15 American football fields. One of the great wonders of the world, so says the author, a top secret Soviet radar, and it was so secret that even the name is uncertain, for it had many different names. It was the Russian woodpecker, though, to many radio amateurs around the world. It was a massive array, and Keith Snyder, KI6BDR, is giving an interactive talk about this on Monday, on Tonight at 8. It's open to everybody, not just RSGB members, and you can find out details of how to watch that live at 8 o'clock on Monday by looking at that link, rsgb.org/webinars. And I must say, we had a quick technical rehearsal with Keith a few days ago, and he showed us some of the pictures, and they are astounding. This is
Massive.
It's just, I don't even know. I mean, it talked about, those words said about them being in the clouds. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It was so big. He showed us one part of an array, someone standing next to one, sort of basically, because it's a massive different antenna. Anyway, if you're interested in the technology, or if you ever heard what they called the Russian woodpecker, then I'm sure this program will be of interest to you. It's 8 o'clock this coming Monday on the RSGB webinar channel on YouTube. So, that's my talking done. I think everybody at home can hear us as well, so we've got the technical issues out of the way. Tammy, little people for you.
Little people, yep. Here's the little people this week. It's called chili skiing.
Oh, right. Well, with the Olympics, Winter Olympics coming up,
the
I
Olympics
guess.
They've just started, haven't they?
I love it. That's a chili.
It's
So
a
I wonder
chili.
what it's in. Is that a couple of bowls, one inside another,
Yeah, it's
maybe?
like a plate on a bowl.
Lovely.
So it's quite cool.
Brilliant.
Just thought it was apt at the moment.
Yeah, as we always say at this time, this is coming from a website, miniature-calendar.com, a Japanese website, a different picture every day, and Tammy picks one for us each week. So what have you been doing? Please keep in touch with us. By usual way, you can email us to this address, radio@dcpmicro.com, at the bottom of your screens now. And we'd love to hear from you, your stories, your pictures, your projects, anything else, any other club news as well. We would love to hear from you each week. By Wednesday at 3 o'clock, the absolute latest really, but as soon as you can do it, that helps us sort of plan the programme a bit ahead. Okay, so now we're up that bit of the competition.
It's that bit again.
It is. Now, this time,
We had a lot.
this is our
We've
talk.
We've
If you-
got 2 whole pages of guesses.
Exactly. I mean, last week we only had one kind of tongue-in-cheek guess, and that was only entry. That was a long time. So, well, I picked something which, they're all things that you've sent us, and this was one I thought maybe a few people will get, but we didn't expect. I think it's 24 people who've guessed what this thing is. So anyway, we better show the picture. Let's show it now. It's too late to enter now. We're already going to take up 10 minutes of the programme probably telling you about it. So what on earth is this? So we'll start with Steve M7CNI. He says the new object is a hardwired universal mains plug with various different selectable plug pins.
Paul G4ZBA, I think this week's thing is an adapter for plugging into multi-countries mains outlets.
Steve G4GHO says this week's mystery object is a universal plug for many different socket types. Obsolete now, I guess.
Steve G3EVA, it's a mains plug with multiple types of connectors for different sockets.
Phil G6AIO, this week's What on Earth is a multi-UK plug. By twisting the pins and extending them, you can turn them into any type of mains plug you need. 13 amp square, 2 amp, 5 amp, 13 amp round, etc.
Simon M0SIH, the item shown on What on Earth is a fit-all plug. A fit-all plug is a 5-in-1 fused plug. After selecting the relevant pins, it will fit into a 5 amp, 15 amp and 13 amp 3-pin socket outlets and a 5 amp and 15 amp 2-pin outlets.
Wow. Paul G4XBT SO1 NXQ says this week's object is a universal mains adapter plug. I used one for years until they became illegal to use. Very handy when not all houses had 13 amp square pin sockets. I can remember that. I know you're not going to remember that, but
No.
my nan and granddad had little
You had like
smaller sockets for
5
lights.
amps for plugs. Didn't you? Or
That's
2
right, for
amp or
lights,
something?
yeah. Anyway, we better go through because it may not be right, but we are getting quite a few entries for this.
David G3VSJ, that takes me back to the 1960s. Am I that old? That's an early version of a Traveller's mini fit plug. As a TV service engineer, we used those for our soldering irons to be able to fit into any of the main sockets found in customers' houses. Life was really simple in those days. No traffic on the roads. Driving for a living was a pleasure, and you could park right outside the customer's door.
Oh, that sounds good. Tom GXQD says this is a device to connect to any main socket in the world, allowing contravention of many safety standards and providing lots of alternative fun at home or on foreign holidays, electrocuting and setting fire to people in accommodation. What? That's a bit dark, Tom.
Neil G4JUV. It's an easy one this time. It's a plug for 5, 13 and 15 amp sockets. The appropriate pins can be retracted, leaving the ones you need. I doubt if many 5 or 15 amp circuits still exist. I love the way they are called plug sockets in Norfolk.
Why do you laugh at that? That's a lovely... They can't see you smiling at that. Is that something you call them? Do you call them plug sockets? Do your mum and dad call them plug
Well,
sockets?
I've heard them called plug sockets quite a lot.
Yeah. I never really thought about that, really. But
No, I didn't know it was a Norfolk term, though.
John 2E0TWQ says it's a universal travel plug adapter. Had a few of these over the years gone by.
Peter G4PNF. This week's picture is, I believe, of a type of universal mains plug. The pins are contained within the plug, and the photo shows them still retracted within the body of the plug. The appropriate pins for different socket types can be shaken out and secured with a rotation of the pin. I think I had one of these a number of years ago, many years ago.
Bob GSTU says this week's mystery object is a multi-pin mains plug adapter used for different socket types. And he had one of those years ago, a bit bulky to use on some sockets. I remember, the 15 amp with the big round ones, I think.
Yeah.
Big, slightly bigger than the current square ones. Anyway.
Yeah. Chris G4CCX. This week's object is a multi-format plug top. By using the plate, you allow access to the pins you require for 13, 5 or 15 amp plug tops, etc. So you would have been able to plug into almost anywhere in the UK when we still use the round pin plugs, or into a more modern 13 amp outlet.
I love the stories for some of these things as well. There's one like this one. This is Paul G3SEM. He says, as regards to what is this type of plug was the one I used to use with my radio gear when I travelled around. In just about every case, it was impossible to find out what sockets were being used in the accommodation provided. This plug gave the best chance of finding something to fit, using two or three round and square sockets. This is the interesting bit. In some cases, the sockets had been stolen, and all you had was 2 bare wires dangling from the wall with about 180 volts AC on them. This adapter worked by pushing the bare wire into the plug and locking it tight with the sliding plastic sheet. In some areas, the average income per year was only $200 to $300, so anything was fair game to steal. I used to lock everything into my reinforced suitcase and padlock it to the underside of the bed. I came back one night to find the suitcase through the door, but luckily the bed would not come through, so everything was saved.
Blimey.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
I never thought you'd get that from that plug, would you? Right.
Gordon G3PXT. It's a universal plug, will fit any socket.
Martin G3ZQU. This week's item is a multi-standard mains plug. It can be configured for the different modes, e.g. 13 amp flat pin, 2 amp, 5 amp and 15 amp round pin. Very useful in their day.
Peter M0VRA. I suspect this week's object is a form of plug adapter used during the transit period between round pin plugs and square pin plugs in GB.
Nev M0NFY. Oh no, I recognise this. I used to have one on my sewing machine. It's a multi-plug. You pull it out and usually twist to lock the required pins so you can use many different main sockets. Went out of favour when the 2, 5, 10, 15 amp round sockets were replaced by the now standard 13 amp square pin sockets.
Warwick Barnes says it is an adapter plug from the days when we had various round pin outlets in the UK.
We're nearly there. Ivan G7SNC. The item in question is a multi-plug. By pulling out the pins required, you were able to change plugs as and when sockets would allow. I believe they are 15 amp 3 pin, 13 amp 3 pin rectangular and 5 amp and 3 pin round. These were originally sold in the mid-60s.
John G8VPE. This week's mystery object is an easy one. It's a fit-all plug, common in the 1960s when some houses were still using 3-pin plugs with round pins.
And finally, Kevin M0UJD says, what on earth is this? It's a mains plug top capable of being plugged into 5 13 amp and 15 amp sockets. I'm sure totally against all the rules now. Well, as an electrician, Kevin, you would know. And the answer is...
Do you reckon it's like a boat or something is the actual answer?
Yeah, well, it'd be nice, wouldn't it, if it was, we could fool all those people. But it won't surprise you to know that the answer is indeed a fit-all plug. Extra point to you if you got the name as well. A few of you named exactly what it was. And this is from John M6JAU. So I think those of you said it was a continental plug,
We-
and it wasn't really, was
We
it?
did
It was
have
for
one
the
extra
UK.
one on
Oh, did we?
the BATC. Ricardo de Ponza said it's a multi-pin death trap.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think they probably wouldn't be allowed. And I guess there's no fuse in there.
There is a fuse.
Oh, is
John,
there?
John said it was fused, yeah.
I wonder what you'd fuse it at, though, because it's capable of 15 amps. 13, 5.
Yeah, I don't know. He did say it was fused, though.
Wow. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much, John. That's caused much amusement. And the biggest entry we've ever had, I said, there's 24 entries to that. And we want to read everyone because you've all taken the trouble to do that. So thank you very much indeed for that. Well, if that one was easy, which I think, given that every entry was indeed correct as well, then what do you make of this? What on earth is this? Oh, I'm fascinated. I would not have known from the description.
No, I saw the answer picture.
But
and,
it's very reasonable.
yeah.
I've never seen one. Have you seen one of the very useful thing around? Well, I'll just, the only little clue I'll give you is useful around the house, really. Everybody could probably use one. How about that? It's not a specialist tool or anything like that. Anyway, I better not say any more. You've got to get guessing. What on earth is that? You can let us know by next Wednesday to that email address, radio@dcpmicro.com. And as always, this picture will be on our Facebook page and on the club newsletter and on the club website as well. Now, before we move on, just to tell you what we've had, I saw an answer to the a couple of answers, by the way.
Yeah,
there is. John says a review on the Malachite SDR.
I don't think that. Yeah, that wasn't to do with the.
And there was one there. So on
thing,
Facebook, I'm trying to remember that was from Ivan, was it? So Ivan, we've had somebody just found a review on the RTL-SDR.com website. So you might like to have a look at that. That's a review of it. And Steve Webb has come back, and this is the question posed by Peter, and says the patterns on the TV screen are diffraction patterns caused by the LED grid. A monochromatic light source, a laser, would leave a series of equi-spaced bars in a radiated pattern, the spacing of which is determined by the grid size. A white light is comprised of many different wavelengths, and hence you get different coloured diffraction patterns, each separated by a distance proportional to the light wavelength. Wow, that's really good. Very comprehensive answer. And Neil Bowers has said it's a diffraction pattern from the fine-grained patterning on the LCD screen. I've seen similar patterns looking through net curtains. Sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But anyway, 7.3 from G4JUV. There we go. So there we are, Peter. Two very good and very similar answers. So I'm sure that's right. That's what it is, not my Polaroid thinking that it was something to do with that. Oh, not quite anyway.
Yep.
So thanks very much for that. They're a really clever lot there who watch this programme. And
yep.
Thank you very much indeed for the feedback. So just to let you know what's happening in the club before we get started on tonight's main event. This week, on Sunday, we've got the GB2RS News at 7 o'clock on GB3MB. And on Monday at 7:30, we've got the Monday Night Net with host Steve M7CNI this week, again on GB3MB. And at 8:30, the 80-metre CW net on 3.543 megahertz. And then next Wednesday, here on NARC Live at 7:30, Oldham radio gear. Why do we bother? Steve G3ZPS is coming back to give us a talk. He gave us a talk on the emergency services before, if you remember, and he's coming to discuss whether we should be bothering with the old ham radio gear now. Why do we bother? Is it good or bad? I don't know. We're going to have to watch his talk to find out. He'll be here next Wednesday night on NARC Live at 7:30. As I said, let us know all your news as well. Get in touch with us for the programme. You know the address to write to, radio@dcpmicro.com. And also, if you'd like us to send one of these cards to anybody for celebrating a wedding or a birthday or any kind of a celebration, or just want to be cheered up, they're not feeling too good or whatever, we're very, very happy to send this, your club card, to anybody. Just drop us a line with their name and address and we'll add your name to ours and send it off immediately. Now, we're returning to tonight's main event, and what it's all about is about the filter, which Ian GM3SEK presented to us some time ago. Now, Ian's kindly joined us tonight as well. I don't know if maybe we can just go to Ian now and have a quick chat with you, Ian.
Yeah, if Ian wants
we'll
to
bring you
unmute.
on line now, and we'll bring your audio up. There we are. Can you hear us?
Yes, certainly.
Good. Well,
very good evening, everyone.
you created an awful lot of interest, Ian, with your talk.
GM3SEK.
Yep, I'm sorry about that. I've just seen
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry about that.
My fault.
Sorry, we had a bit of a rush to get.
Some of us are older than you can even imagine.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it
There
right.
you go.
There we go. It like an instant. No, thank you very much for that, giving us that talk, because it really did inspire a lot of people. As I told you, 42 people ordered either the kits or just the parts of it. You know, the ferrites and things like that to be able to make it. I know you're only here on an informal basis tonight, just to sort of share with others, the people who've built the things, as well. And I've got a few bits of feedback to read to you as well, because we've got a few people on Zoom now. But one thing you suggested that we did, which is a good suggestion, because we can do it sort of live now, is do a sort of mini survey for those of you who've built one of Ian's kits, either from the bits that you got from the club just before Christmas, or you've already built one some time ago. Maybe you like, we just as a sort of a survey, a basic survey, you could answer 1, 2 or 3 on Facebook or BATC. If you answer 1, it's made a significant difference with much less noise in your shack. If you answer 2, then it's made some difference, but not as much as maybe you'd hoped. And for 3, the filter hasn't really made any noticeable difference to the noise in your shack. There's no criticism intended for this, of course, or anything like that, because it may be that the filter isn't going to help the particular problem you had. But I think Ian would be very interested in your feedback, and we all would indeed, and how effective it's been. I've already heard from a few people where it has been very effective. So if you would like to enter now on BATC or Facebook, if you've built one of these, if you could put 1, 2 or 3, depending on whether it's been very effective with a 1, or 3 not so effective, or 2 in between the two, maybe a little bit. So Ian, well, I'm going to read a few bits out tonight. I know we've also got a couple of, or at least one specific question for you as well. So I'm going to start with and actually I'll just say to people at home, actually we have got Ralph there, so let's go to Ralph first. He's on Zoom with us now live, so if you could unmute Ralph, and we'll say good evening to you up from the same part of the world as Ian.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, welcome from Dumfries and Galloway. Ian is a near neighbour of mine. He's only an hour and a half away, but in Dumfries and Galloway, that's quite near. Because it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours to get from one end of Galloway, from the Mull, to the borders. I have indeed ordered, thanks to David, I ordered the full kit, and I built same, and I have found that I'm able to do things now that I couldn't before. In fact, I'm picking people up on 160 meters that I never heard before. I've never ever heard anybody on 160 meters. I'm now hearing them, and I'm getting 5 and 9 plus from as near as Italy. While on 40 meters, which didn't seem to make any difference at all, it didn't seem to make any difference. I did email Ian and said to Ian that I wondered if the instructions say that you should plug everything in your shack in through the filter. And I questioned whether or not plugging everything in, which would include my Apple Mac and my printers and everything else, would that cause interference through the filter? And Ian replied to me, and I'm more than happy to be corrected, that no, I should only plug in the radio section of my shack, which I have done, and it has made it a real difference. The other thing that I wanted to ask Ian, and if I show you, is have I got my wires twisted enough going through the ferrites? I was thinking about redoing this ferrite because I wasn't sure whether or not that was tight enough. I've also done the earth here, and I've earthed everything through the plug that David kindly sent. And to David, thank you very much for doing that for us all. But is that satisfactory? I have found it to be satisfactory, or would you suggest I take it apart and tighten up my wiring on the large ferrite?
Okay, well, we'll go to you, Ian, now, please.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Ralph. Part of my answer to Ralph was that if something was actually connected to the radio as well, then it too would need to go through the mains filter. But taking at one extreme, Ralph mentioned a couple of charger adapters for handhelds, which if they're doing nothing else but charging up the handheld, then leave them on the dirty side of the new filter, exactly where they are. It hadn't been clear whether Ralph's computer, whether the Apple Mac was connected to the radio via an audio lead, in which case if it had been, I'd have said then connect the mains for that to the filtered side. That then raises the question, what would he do with the printer, which is obviously connected to the Mac, and the answer to that would have been socket and C. I think if you're sort of fairly strict with your definition of what is part of the shack in terms of being connected to the radio, then I think the answers about which side of the filter will fall out reasonably clearly. As regards to construction, I can't see anything there, Ralph, worth that. It ain't broke. It doesn't need any further fixing. I can't see anything that would justify taking the whole thing apart again.
Okay, does that help you, Ralph?
Yeah, that's super, because I wasn't sure. I did look at various internet sites on the filter, and one of them said that the wire should be as tight as possible. I did it as tight as I could by hand, but it, as Ian says, it works. And if it works and it's not broke, leave it alone. And that's what I've done. And I have kept the radio side of things purely on the clean side of the filter, and the iMac and the printer and everything else is on the dirty side. And it for me, that works. So thank you, Ian, and thank you, David, and Tammy.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Ian. I mean, do you want to come back in on any of that, Ian?
I think the most important two words there that Ralph said are, for me, in other words, in his shack, because it all eventually comes down to the small details. Everybody's shack is different, and we've got different things connected. So you've just got to be reasonably careful and experiment a little bit. And especially if you've got a receiver that allows you to watch what happens to the interference, then you've got a fairly good way of measuring. And ultimately, I hope there aren't any opticians here, but I think this is something that you can sort out by the optician method, where they come along and they put lenses in and say, is that better, worse, or about the same? And yeah, better, go for it. About the same, leave it alone. Worse, don't do that. It can be as simple as that.
Okay, well, that's good, Ian. Well, you're going to stay with us. Thank you, by the way, again, very much for coming in tonight as well, to act as advice. And for any of you who've made the kit and you've got any queries about it, or you haven't found it worked for you or something, you've got the man who developed it. I know with lots of other ideas, I'm sure Ian would tell you, collaborative sort of design that is, but with lots of other input of other things over the years. But I mean, Ian is here. He's made a lot of these. He's given a lot of talks on them. So if you've got a question about your filter, or even how to make it, then I'm sure Ian will help. And in fact, talking about that, Tammy and I were thinking, like I'm sure many of you, of the 42, I wouldn't mind betting that at least half of you probably haven't got round to making it yet, because that's the way it is, isn't it? That's life. Well, we're the same. I bought one for us, and we haven't built it yet. But we have today spent a little bit of time prepping and getting some bits and pieces ready, because we thought that maybe you've got some queries of it. Maybe if you haven't got round to it, you know, we could impart a little bit of benefit of our experience today. So we haven't got as far as making it, but we have done a few things. So Tammy, I don't know if we can show on a wide shot, just us two at the moment. That may be best. So this is what one of the first jibs and one of the bigger jobs to do, and we've done it the way Ian suggested, was twisting the wire. So you get the cable. I'll just show you how the cable comes, for those of you who haven't got a kit. By the way, I did notice that somebody said they're interested in now and they hadn't bought a kit. Although we can't do it at the same price because it was a bulk buy, and that was the point of it, I have done an article on the website, and it was in, I think, last week's newsletter, which tells you where you can buy all these parts from. So it's not too late to buy one, it's just not going to be quite the price that we did them. So the cable comes like this. It's mains cable, 2.5mm, and it's high temperature cable, so it can go up to at least 90 degrees. It feels very stiff cable. Otherwise, apart from that, it's flex, and apart from that, it's the same. So today, this afternoon, Tammy, we got together, we spent a bit of time on it, and stripping it down. And we've got a bit of advice, haven't we, Tammy, a bit based on what we did about stripping it down? Not doing it maybe the way we started. How did you do that? Because you stripped the cable out of there. See, because you want to end up, you see, with the cables, the individual 3 cables that are in there, the brown, blue, and green and yellow.
Well, after I finished, you told me about a lovely little gadget you got, which would have helped me, that we had on What on Earth Is This several weeks ago.
I did.
Which was going to slip the PVC.
Yeah. Do you remember in the early days of What on Earth Is This? We showed a cable stripper, which was normally more for coax, where you make a ring around the insulation and then pull it along, and it makes a nice neat slit in the side of the insulation without going into the cable. That would have saved Tammy some time. And I told her after she'd done it, which wasn't a great deal of help. But anyway, Tammy, apart from that,
well, no, I just slit the casing. Very carefully, not too far in with a Stanley knife, and then got some pliers and pulled the sleeve off while holding the cable in my other hand. Right.
So then you end up with your 3 cables.
Yep.
And actually now, if you want to show you, we've rigged up a close-up camera here this afternoon. If you want to show that picture, then we can show the things that are actually on your desk now.
Yep.
So there we are. So this is what you end up with when you've twisted it round. And on Ian's website, and all these details are there. He suggests that you put the 3 ends of cable in a vise, and then the other in a slow-running electric drill, or one of those electric screwdrivers.
That's what we did.
That's what we did, isn't it?
We did. Yep.
And you ended up with this.
Yep.
I don't know, Ian, if you can just give us a nod. Is that tight enough? Do you think the way we've done that?
Yeah. You might run it up a little bit tighter, because you have to run it up tighter than you think with the cordless drill or screwdriver, because when you leave it alone, it will start to relax and separate, and it's very much easier to handle if the all 3 wires stay put together. Just one other thing which I realise I didn't mention, and my heart was in my mouth with, but okay, Tammy had the good sense to keep all 3 wires together. You do not strip this cable by pulling out the individual wires. You want to keep the twist that you started off with, and then add some more to it. But yeah, it worked. And Yeah.
What we did find it was really, and others may find this, it's very, very hard, isn't it, the cable? I mean, we're in this room here, it's reasonably warm in here now, but it's still quite a hard cable, because I guess it's to do with its high temperature characteristics, that it means that in medium temperatures like this, 20 degrees or so, it's quite hard because it's got to withstand 90 degrees. I can't remember if it was you, Ian, or whether it was somebody who came on the talk or even something else we did, but someone did suggest, I'm sure, that to warm up the cables, and we did use a hot air gun to when we twisted it up quite a lot, to warm the cables up in that state, to maybe make them feel more relaxed at being twisted like that, because there was this feeling, I think, otherwise, was it going to all untangle as soon, or was Tammy going to end up spinning the other way around on the back of a drill? I mean, have you heard that before? Because I'm sure I didn't make that up. That's something someone suggested.
Yeah, I have heard that, and it seems like a good idea. In fact, since you're going to throw away the outer covering, there's no reason before you start cutting into it not to leave the whole thing in a pan of hot water, just taking care to keep the ends out of the hot water and dry, and let it all soften a little bit. You know, some people sell this stuff as so-called kettle flex, but I think to be honest, it's the Monster Village Hall tea urn flex.
Yes,
really,
yes,
it's not domestic. It's gone beyond.
Yeah, it is pretty stiff, but we found it helped anyway. And I can tell you that from our experience, we'd taken the wires out. We were doing it together, which helped. I think you had the vice holding one end, you were holding the screwdriver on the other, and then I went along with a hot air gun, the sort of thing you use for either paint stripping, or be careful though the extreme temperature of that. I've got one that's meant for heat shrink, and that was ideal, I think. And I just waved it along there. I guess a hairdryer would do something similar.
When we used to sell heat resistant cable, and it was called butyl.
Butyl, yeah.
And that was really it was soft, and really you could it wasn't hard like this. I guess it's the plastic coating on that, but it was sort of like more of a rubbery coating, I think. But I don't know if you can still get that now.
Do you know if that's a thing, butyl cable, Ian?
I don't offhand. One thing to remember is that 290-degree high temperature. Sorry, the 90-degree high temperature rating, because that will apply particularly where you've got 7 times 3 wires going through the middle of that ferrite core, where there is no ventilation inside there, and if you're actually pushing 13 amps through 2 of the 3 wires, then you really need to be a little bit careful in that area, because it's nothing. You can't get in there to check, and by the time you've got all 7 turns through the middle, it's full. You can't get anything else in there.
Yeah, we did have notes of that actually, and I'll come on to somebody who gave us some feedback, Ian. Just going to read as well a bit of the feedback that we're getting online as well. John just disappeared then. John Goldsmith, he who came up with the fit all plug. He says, when twisting wires, it can help to give a sharp tug just before removing it from the vise or drill. That causes the copper to go beyond its yield point, and it won't unwind as much. So there's a thought. But it certainly, we think it helped keep it in where it was, and we'll take your advice on board, of course, Ian, that before we do wind these into the ferrites, we'll definitely twist it up tighter, won't we?
A bit more, yeah.
And actually, Tammy, if we could show that close-up camera again, it's something I'd just like to point out as well to everybody at home while I remember. I did tell everybody on the night as well, this is advice actually from a good friend Steve, G0KY, who uses ferrites and things a lot as well. And it was always something I remember him telling me, that when you get lots of ferrites like this, they all look very similar. There we go. Very, very similar. And what he suggested that I did at the time, this is a project with one of his NFET halfwaves years ago, is you label them when you get them. Because if you don't label them, it can be very difficult to identify afterwards. So you can see, I can just see there, if I get the light out of there, you can just see I've labelled these 2 ferrite cores when I got them, and the same with this big one. Just put a little label on there before you actually use them, and certainly if you're going to store them in any time, so you know exactly what difference they are. And in fact, on that same subject, John actually 2E0TWQ sent me a note with a link. I don't know if we've got that link.
We
Tammy,
have got that link. Yeah, I'll leave that up for a minute or two if anybody wants to copy it down.
This is a place he found, Ian, and might find it useful as well. It's a way of identifying what a ferrite core is and its characteristics if you've already got one and you have no idea what it is. So if you buy something unmarked, maybe on eBay or something like that, and you don't know what it is, or you've got them in your bottom of your spares box and you can't remember what they are, because they do have very different characteristics, many of them, then this is a good video that John sent us details of, and that may help you. And you should be able to play this back if you want to, and copy that down, or you can ask me, just drop us an email and I'll copy that exact link there so you can watch it for yourself. But there we are. So thanks very much for that feedback, John. Okay, Ian, should we I just want to ask now, we've got Malcolm, Sonny and Julian as well on the Zoom. Do any of you have anything you'd like to talk to Ian or all of us about the filters?
I can do.
Yes, Malcolm, good evening.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I have built mine and had it in circuit. And I didn't think I had a particular mains noise problem anyway. This is using Flex 6500, so I carried out careful S-meter and dBm checks on the radio prior and then after fitting the filter. And I would say that there's no difference as far as I'm concerned. So I think I conclude from that I don't have a local electrical noise problem. My S-meter readings are very low on all the bands. So I've not got a noticeable problem anyway. One query that I would have is I've taken the earth sort of straight through. In other words, the earth goes in from the mains input, then goes out in the normal way to the supply. And I've got it supplying the whole station, because all of the station is radio equipment, not other computers. It's all connected to the radio. So I got the impression when Tony, G2NF, was giving his talk, that he seemed to be talking about separating the mains earth from the external radio earth. So I just wonder if Ian's got a comment on that. I've taken the earth straight through, whereas Tony seemed to be indicating to sort of not take the mains earth through, but then to have the external ground earth onto the radio equipment.
What are your thoughts, Ian, on that?
Yeah, I find it difficult to see exactly how it's possible to do that while maintaining a mains earth all the way through, sufficient that if you connect yourself across it, the purpose of the mains earth wire is really to trip the RCD in the consumer unit. If you don't have a connection going all the way through and you have a separate radio earth, then that's going to be quite difficult. So my concept of this is to maintain that green and yellow wire connection all the way through, but make sure that RF current can't go down it. I think it's very difficult. Could I just share the screen a moment, please, David?
I think we can do that. Yeah, we just we didn't set that up, but we can, Ian. Just give us a moment. We're just going to click some buttons here and some settings. Okay, if you share it now with us, Ian, we should be able to bring it up on another screen.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, can you see that?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If you go through the if you watch the video that was made of the 2019 RSGB convention presentation, this is one of the slides, and there are three possible places where it would seem like a good idea to have a choke. One is the one up at the feed point of the antenna, if you can. The other is the mains, and there's a possibility of having a third choke there, essentially at the entrance to the shack. But this is obviously vastly oversimplified, because there are several bands that you're probably operating, and different people's layouts really benefit most from different kinds of treatment. Now, forgive me going slow. I'm answering off the cuff here, but I'm also trying to get it right.
That's all right.
The other thing is, will you or will you not benefit from a separate earth connection at that point? And again, that is something that you can only really do by experiment, and make measurements. If you've got a wide range SDR in particular, so save screens so that you can flash up before and after. That helps quite a lot. So I think my answer condensed is that there is no universal solution. As Malcolm's found, a mains choke won't cure a problem of mains-borne noise that you don't have. In fact, I don't have mains-borne noise here, so my choke ended up in the club rooms of the Wigtownshire club that I belong to. The intention was to be able to lend it out so that people could actually check, do I have a problem? If so, then go and build your own. I think this club has also done the right thing, because as time has gone on, it's found that more and more people do have a problem, and the odds are more strongly on people having a problem than not having one in these days. But it's only part of a solution for the whole shack, and this mains filter was only about a third of the complete presentation. It just takes up more time once you expand it. But that's the point I wanted to make. Possibly an RF earth there, but as I say, I would be very reluctant to break that green and yellow wire. That there are different points of view on that, but I'd be very reluctant to do it myself.
Okay. Well, thank you. And of course, that talk, as you say, that convention talk, they'll be able to get, I think that must have been recorded probably, so people could download that from the RSGB YouTube channel, I guess. That'll be...
I'm not sure if it's on the YouTube channel yet. It wasn't for a while. It's certainly members can download it from the RSGB convention archives, okay, which are on the RSGB site. But the policy had been after a couple of years, that stuff then gets put on the main YouTube site so that it's completely publicly accessible. And I very much hope that they will catch up. But I've been a little bit reluctant to pester Steve and his people over these small details. I must admit, but it still needs doing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, Ian, well, great advice. Has that helped you, Malcolm?
Oh, yes, that's fine. I mean, I also thought it was best to keep the earth going through to the equipment, which I have done. And I've left it in circuit from the point of view of good engineering practice, really. So although there isn't any specific noise which is being taken out, because I don't have any, as Ian suggests, really.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks to both of you. So I'm going to read some feedback from Ted, and maybe Ian has got a view on this. This is from Ted, G4OZG. He says, I've attached a photo of my mains filter, and this is it. This is one of our kits that we put together, Ian. It's slightly different to the website photos in that the metal filter is wired the opposite way in line with the diagram on it, and I added an earth terminal to the plastic case. I had trouble winding the large ferrite. The two halves had a gap even with a cable tie around the finished windings, so I took it apart and fitted a cable tie to hold them together, and then wound the coil and added another cable tie over the windings. Either my windings were not tidy enough, or 2.5mm wires are a bit too big a diameter initially. He also says, I didn't really have a mains noise problem, but like the idea of the filter supplying PSUs and the computer. I've run the radios from a battery and turned the house mains off, pulled the telephone leads out, and still have quite a lot of noise via the coax cable, particularly on 160, 80 and 40 meters. So more work required there, or he has to live with it. But anyway, he says, thank you very much to you, Ian, and to the club as well for the efforts with this project. That's from Ted, G4OZG.
Yeah, could I just make one point on that, David, which is that the earth terminal is actually on the unfiltered side. I would imagine if you were going to fit one, it would be more useful to have that on the filtered side.
Okay, yeah, let's have a look at that picture. Well, that might be even partly slightly my fault. You know, I did ask you whether you thought there was a reasonable idea to give a terminal, but I didn't give any guidance about that. And I actually, yes, I can absolutely see what you mean. So that terminal there is just mains earth. It's not filtered mains earth. I get it. Yeah. So really, he should take the mains terminal then from the bottom right, effectively, which is the outlet. It's difficult to tell from that photo which was the outlet and the inlet, but it's the right hand side, I think, must be the outlet, because that's the load side, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
David.
Yes, Ralph.
David, sorry. May I show you what I did in order to improve things?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, my apologies for butting in.
No, that's what this is about. This is an interactive, and that's exactly what it's about.
My cable coming in, into here.
Yes.
My earth, I have soldered the earth on the on the
metal case, the terminal
yes,
that's on there. Yeah, okay.
To the earth on the filter side. Yeah, so the whole thing is earthed, both the input and the output is earthed through my grounding on the other side.
Is that a sort of loop then, or not?
That's a continual earthing.
I'm not sure if that's good or not, really. I'm a bit worried, but I'm going to go to the expert, Ian. Sorry.
But for me, it worked. Sorry, David.
Okay. No. Please. It's what this is all about.
Yeah, I see what you've done, Ralph, and I think there's two things. One is maintaining the continuity of the green-yellow wire all the way through, and you've done that, and that's great. The other thing is that your external green earth terminal is connected to the output side of the RF chokes. So that's where I would put it. if I was feeling the need to connect other things. And
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense now you've said it, Ian, I think.
yeah,
So it's the filtered side that you might want to connect other equipment to. It's still going to be connected electrically, isn't it? In terms of safety and things, it's all going to be just via that green and yellow cable that's wrapped inside. But if you're going to put that terminal on and then attach other equipment, that needs to be on the output of the filter.
Yes. For example, one of the other tools in your armory is to bond all the major items of RF equipment together with a very low inductance bonding, which that was mentioned in the previous 2015 Clean Up Your Shack. I didn't touch upon it this time, but if, for example, you have a 6-inch wide strip of PC board, copper-clad board going all the way along the back of your equipment, all those little earth terminals on the back of your radios, which you wonder what to do with, you can connect those all down onto that strip, and that will help to, it will essentially short circuit any other RF currents that are trying to wander their way through your equipment. And if you were going to do that, then you would be wanting to connect that to the filtered side of the mains filter as well, so that it does represent mains earth.
Okay.
In my thinking was that the earth, as well as the positive and negative, have got to be in a circuit. And if we break the circuit of the earth, are we not breaking the work that the filter is doing? And my results were, I was quite staggered at the results.
Yeah, what have you connected to that green terminal then, Ralph?
Well, the green terminal eventually goes to my earth.
Which earth is that?
That is the grounding outside.
Oh, outside. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
That's your clean earth.
That's the clean earth.
Yep.
So everything, all the earth is going, the dirty earth and the dirty positive and negative are going through the filter from in, through, and then out.
Yep.
To my
your filter strip. Yeah.
And then this is going to the clean earth.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh,
maybe I've stumbled across something. If I have, then I'm very sorry, or I'm very glad.
Be glad. Yeah. One thing that I really don't have. Well, I'm in an upstairs shack. I know you're in a downstairs shack. So you can get a short earth wire going outside, which is going to provide some benefit within the meaning of the active RF frequencies. It's short enough to be a benefit on the HF bands. I don't have that, and it wasn't something I had been thinking of. But thank you very much for uncovering, and thanks also to the previous contributor for uncovering that point. I think that's quite important.
Well, James Clerk Maxwell is buried just along the road, so hey, Scotland again. Sorry.
He gets mentioned a lot, I can tell you, Ian.
Yeah, shameless name dropping.
Exactly.
David,
no, that's really good, I think. Malcolm?
Make a point? Yeah, can I just say, can we just clarify then which way round this filter should be? Mine is connected with the line side of it to the mains and the load side of it going to the filter.
Yeah, if I can just help a little bit, Malcolm. I'm now holding up to the camera one of these filters. So for those, I know that's very small print on there, but if you look at the top, you might or may not be able to read. It says line. Oh, sorry. It says line, and then at the bottom it's got load. So the mains goes in to the top there, and you can see there are two terminals at the bottom, and that's the mains in. And then, and also that is the earth there. Oh, there, sorry. That's the earth connection to the case, and that's again for mains earth. And then the other end of it is load, which is obviously where you then take that into your two or ferrite filters, and then that ultimately ends up with your 4-way or 6-way block, etc.
Yeah, well, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel slightly guilty is quite the word, but you know, I did this green terminal that I put into the full kits. I just thought it was a good idea to be able to access that, and I ran it past Ian. But what I didn't clarify to either Ian or to people with the kits is exactly where that should be connected. And of course, it should be after the filter, shouldn't it? After the windings of all the green and yellow and all of the other colours through the two ferrites, the one that's going to go out to the mains block, which that really should be is where that green terminal connected.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry about any lack of clarity there. As I say, it's not something that my own Shaka's arrangements have ever made me need to think about. And okay, I'm glad I came.
That is good. Well, we all every day, don't we? We all learn something every day, as I said. So I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do to make it even more positive, I'll write to everybody who ordered a kit, because I know not everybody's going to be watching tonight, and I'm just going to clarify that really that green terminal should be connected to the load side. I kind of thought that was just sort of logical, but I don't think it's that obvious. So
there was a discussion, David. I found there was different opinions about which way round it should go on some of the reflectors on the internet.
Yeah, but I couldn't find a reason that was sufficiently persuasive to advocate strongly for one side over the other. But either way around would actually work. And in fact, there's somebody G0CNN in Durham who had been doing a lot of experiments using this on a generator, and he found that the other way around worked better in that case. So it's something to keep in reserve as a thought.
And if I can interject with my apologies again, the way I have done it is my dirty mains is coming in and going to that side. The earth is going to the other side of the filter, but it is all connected. It's all connected by my soldering of the earth on the other side.
Yeah, that's correct. The packaged mains filter. I mean, we need to be a little bit careful. We're using the word filter to mean two separate things. Either the thing in the metal can or the whole unit. But the packaged mains filter in the metal can only has one earth connection on it. So you run your wire around there to past that to pick up that that tab, and then it's beyond there that all the wires come together into the twisted triple that goes through the RF chokes. The RF chokes do most of the work most of the time, But since you can't know exactly what the situation is, it's worth having the canned filter there as well.
Okay, Ian.
My
Thank you.
apologies, David, for butting in,
no.
but I think it's great to share, and I'm so impressed, and it's not just because Ian's a neighbour. I'm so impressed with what it's done for my system that I think it's important that other folk have the opportunity of experimenting, and that's what it is.
Exactly. No, please, Ralph, don't apologise, because that's what tonight is all about. That's why we did a follow-up, because so many people were building them and various notes and things were going between us, and I thought it was really important to cover those, and especially as Ian's been kind enough to join us again. It's a great opportunity with the the fact that many people have built them now as well, and to ask the man himself about that and share experiences. So that's what you're doing. It's brilliant.
A definitive diagram would be very useful.
What do you mean, a circuit diagram or sort of like a schematic?
A circuit diagram.
Yeah, maybe that's. Would that be possible, Ian?
I couldn't guarantee to draw it myself in any short length of time. But if somebody would like to draw one up, I would be absolutely delighted to steal it. I'm sorry, things have been a little bit pressing with the other stuff that I've been doing on EMF work. So the in between bouts of that, I'm afraid this mains filter thing and maintaining the website.
I tell you what, Ian, if that's all right, what I'll do, I'll draw it up, but I would like you to sort of sanction it, as it were, just to make sure it's right. I'll do it as best I can, and I'll do it in a form, and then you can have it, and then we can also share it with club members. How's that?
Yeah, thanks, David. You're a star.
Okay, no,
David,
that's good.
David, I'm happy to take a close-up photograph of what I've done and send it to you as well.
Okay, that's lovely. Yeah. Yes, please do. Thank you, Ralph. I'd like to read just a couple of other bits of feedback now. David G3MPN wrote and said, further to this coming Wednesday evening's discussion, my input is as follows. I did buy one of the commercial 6-way mains extensions, filtered, as was talked about by one of the speakers, Tony G2YF, he thinks. While I could see or hear no benefit from using it, I must say my noise, this is David's noise levels, which is a combination of DSL, switch mode, power supplies and general sort of rubbish, with the aerial connected are pretty high. S8 on 160 metres, slowly diminishing up 10 metres. The aerial is a doublet with a 200-foot top at 45 feet, fed with ladder line, and the main supplies the properties underground. So he's thinking that in a lot of amateur radio situations, noise from the main side would be maybe quite difficult to hear, but he does take the point that any noise from any source would have an accumulative effect. He doesn't want to put a damper on any other efforts, he says, but that's just his own experience. So I think that's worth having. And the other big thing I'd like to share with you is from Tony, G0MQG. He wrote this to me actually a couple of weeks ago when we first talked about revisiting this subject. He says, "Hi David, I've just finished installing the mains filter designed by Ian GM3SEK and thought you might like to mention my findings on the programme. I took readings on 80 metres, 3.711 megahertz, before and after installation. Noise level was just over S8 before installation and just over S7 after installation. So it makes a difference of 1 S point." And he says, although it doesn't sound much, he hasn't yet choked the feeder to his trap dipole. So that's the next job. I just thought you might like to mention this on the meeting, because he'd also be like to find other people's findings as well, and that's what tonight is all about. So even 1 S point, of course, could make the difference between you having a QSO and not, as we all know. So good, another thumbs up for you, Ian.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have got on the blog site where I published this. There've been large numbers of comments, mostly favourable. So it has worked for a good number of people, and well, yes, 74 replies, most of which were favourable. So I'm increasingly relieved about that.
Good. Well, there's no guaranteed answer to any of this stuff, is there? It's all a learning thing. It's all about experimentation. And everybody's station is different after all, and their situation. So we're coming towards, I think, the end of things now. We've also got Julian and Sonny on there. I don't know whether either of you would like to come on and talk about filters or anything. Either of you? Julian, do you want to come on? If you unmute, please, and then we can bring you on.
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, fine.
Great stuff. I haven't actually made this or got any of this kit as yet, but I was seriously thinking about it. But from what comments that Malcolm said about the actual noise that I've got, my shack is down the bottom of my garden, so I'm well away from the house and away from any other electrical stuff. So I'm not really getting any interference.
I mean, do you think any of it's coming down the mains? But obviously, you're presuming you're feeding from a main supply coming from the house. I think that's what it's about, really.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I am doing that, but I have twice now turned off the mains from the house and gone on to battery.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
and checked it all through like you should do, and I'm only getting S1 or S2 of noise from the surrounding areas. So I don't know whether this would benefit me at all.
Well, does it make
it's only one?
Yeah. Does it make any difference then when you go to battery from mains? Does it make any difference to the noise floor?
Not really. No.
Well, I'll hand over to Ian as our expert, but to me it doesn't sound like it's mains-borne problems that you've got.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. No. I think one thing which would be useful would be if particularly a club of your size would, if you could make up one to be lent out to people to see if it begins to make any difference, then I think that would be a help for an awful lot of people, even people like Julian and indeed Malcolm, who've got good reason to believe that they won't have a problem.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, Ian. So maybe it's something we should have as a sort of club loan. We do have loan items, and so maybe this is something that we could have, and then people know whether they're going to benefit from making such a kit.
Yeah, and maybe a couple of the big ferrite cores as well. That's it's the kind of thing that I've always, since I've come to know about them, taken the big ferrite cores out to special event stations and that kind of thing, and come Lighthouse weekend in the middle of August, it'll be the first time we've been back for 2 years to the Mull of Galloway Lighthouse, and that I'm definitely taking the mains filter that time because the Lighthouse board have installed a honking great LED up on the tower. And we know there's a big switch mode power supply in there. There's got to be. Are we taking the mains filter? You bet we are.
Yeah, I bet you are, yes. Yeah, switch modes are wonderfully efficient things, but they are the generation of a lot of the noise that we see as amateurs, aren't they? And they're everywhere now.
There is actually quite a high noise level at Haysborough as well, David.
Right, yeah. And that, I mean, they've got fairly, or at least last time I looked, fairly primitive or traditional equipment, as it were, and they're a long way away from anything, aren't they?
Yes, but I have noticed that there is a high noise level when we operate from Haysborough Lighthouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, they have to actually thinking about it, Malcolm. They've got things like CCTV cameras and things there now as well, so they're almost certainly being powered from switch mode. So.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good thing. I think you're great idea, Ian. We ought to build one of these for the club and have as a loan item for people to try.
David, can I note that I think Malcolm and Julian are both in fairly rural areas and they don't have the necessarily the noise that I do here in the middle of Dumfries, where I've got GPs and so on next door who are using computers all the time.
Yes, absolutely, Ralph.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no neighbours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the middle of Blowfield, in a village, but it seems strange that when I moved here from Swannington, so I'm basically right across the other side of the city of Norwich, and I'm sort of halfway between Acle and Norwich. I've got less noise here than I had at Swannington, but in Swannington I had nothing around me apart from 2 neighbours, and that was it. And I had more noise there than I have here, which is very strange.
Yeah.
And we're just set back off the road by about, what, 20 metres, if that? You know,
Yeah,
so
wow.
it's just strange.
That's the devil of EMC. You never know. But it's always good to hear that for some people the toast has landed the right side up.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Finally, then, we've got an entry here sent to us by Tom GXQD. Slightly off your mains filter. It isn't your mains filter design, but it's a useful bit of kit anyway, and we've got some pictures of it as well. So he said, you've asked for some details of equipment and filters, so here's my tuppence worth. I found a cheap 12 volt 30 amp switch mode power supply on eBay for around £12 delivered. The 24 volt version of what he bought is shown. This powered my Yaesu radio up to its maximum 100 watts easily, but there was a lot of noise on receive. So I stripped out a redundant signal generator case found at a rally for £5 and filled the front holes with epoxy, and then I resprayed. The original meter had a new legend applied and a resistor to suit 30 volts full scale deflection. The mains filter came from a failed microwave oven. I think we can just see that on the top left, I'm guessing that is. And a high current output inductors came from a bargain bucket at another rally. Although not perfect, fitting it into the case and adding the extra filters made quite an improvement to reception, so all bands were workable. The whole power supply cost me under £20 and kept me happily busy for a few hours. I think that's lovely, and we just see the back of it, I think, now. Isn't that right? Yeah. That is a great, and it's construction as well, which is a hobby horse of mine. It's lovely to see people making stuff. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, Tom. I think that's almost it, really. I haven't had any other comments. I've got John Atwood, or John 20TWQ has said, hi David, I've just ordered the Mauser items, free delivery, because I did put that as one of the sources. If you order, I think it's over £45 worth. Most of it came from Mauser. I think that may be cheaper than Farnell in the UK, and also they had them in stock when I did that. And Sonny, do you want to come back on any of this tonight? Or you ought to be seeing Mrs. Ward very soon, you know.
Yeah, I know. I've been away from her for all of a few hours. Never mind. Freshly married. Let's see how long that lasts. It's very interesting to hear. It's definitely the best suggestion for me in the evening is to have one for the club for the optician treatment as to better, worse, same, no different, and go from there. And certainly from a roaming amateur engineer helping people doing this, that, and the other. It's certainly something that could possibly help. I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world because as much as I go around and helping amateurs all across the country and county, my radio setup is still nil point currently, so not happening currently, and hope to have more time for it in 2022, but I'm certainly not holding my breath at the current state. I personally have a terrible problem with any sort of transmit power on 80 meters knocks my broadband for 6. And I think I'm getting, I think my coax is basically radiating on the false side of the coax. So I've seen, there's a very good video from an American whose call sign and name slips my theory at the moment. He did a sort of a wrapped coil, sort of a dirty Ballon type thing, I think they've been referred to in previous lives. So I'm going to give that a try because I think that might actually solve my problem. And then I might be able to enter some of the club contests, but don't say that in front of Malcolm because he wouldn't have that heard. But yeah, so at the moment, whenever I transmit even with a single dit of 1 watt or less than 1 watt of CW, my broadband just goes out like that. So I think that's what I'm getting, and that is literally my next project for this year. If I can do a filter for that by the end of this year, I'd have done well. Any more than that will be an improvement. But
it does sound
as for
that
mains
rather
noise, I think I'm fine.
I was going to say that sounds like RF generated, doesn't it? Though, rather than mains.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
But all my other noise floors are fairly low, where I live in a relatively rural environment. So I can receive it all okay, but transmitting is a no-no at the moment. So like I say, I just want to try that and go from there. But of the time to actually do that is just the last 4 weeks has been as manic as most people can probably appreciate. And I know there are people with requests for the destruction crew. I will be picking those up over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I've just got to get corporate business out of the way. I came back to over 1,200 emails after 3 weeks off. So I just need to settle down, knuckle down, get those sorted out, filtered through, and once I'm up to date at work, I will be back on the park for amateur installations and support. So just a message for the viewers out there.
We understand, Sonny. I think you said when I saw you with Tammy, when we saw you Saturday, I think you said you'd had most of January off. So we know you're going to be a lot to catch up on, but it's lovely of you to join us tonight. And the only other person I think is on the Zoom call, but we can't see him at the moment, is Andy M0NKR. So if you want to come on, Andy, this is the time. If you don't come on now, then I assume you're just sort of there, just watching, and you don't want to come on. And just another final call to anybody at home now. If you have anything, very, very quickly, please come back. If you've got any other comments or anything about this filter project, especially while we've got Ian here, do come back to us. Or if you've got any other queries, if you didn't already get the link to Ian's website, although it's on that article on our website and on the newsletters in the last couple of weeks as well, his blogspot has got all the details of that, including, I think, your slideshow as well, Ian. Isn't that right? I think we've got your slides on there as well, because we got some very useful pictures from that.
Yeah.
Okay, Andy, we're going to come to you. You're on the call now. If you'd like to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I went down the other avenue when I built the shack here. I didn't sort of go for the GM3SEK type filters, but when I had the shack built and wired, I had commercial filters put in especially into the wiring. So all the wiring that comes into the shack was filtered professionally by the contractors that done the wiring install. So that's just my input on what I've done here at M0NKR.
And I presume you've had very few problems with any mains-borne interference then?
No, nothing.
Good. Well, I think we know what you're doing.
Can't hide the profits, David.
Sorry?
You can't hide the profits.
Right. No, well, I think all those certificates on Andy's wall behind him, if you ever look at those, I think that tells us how well he does on the air. So he's doing something right, that's for sure.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. Congratulations, Andy.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it just goes to show if you do it right, there are usually benefits to be reaped.
Yeah, I mean, not for me to speak for Andy, but you know, he's fairly new, created shack, specifically designed. A lot of people don't have that luxury, maybe, of doing that if they're in a house, and maybe there's more restrictions of that. So this is where something like this filter can come in afterwards to help particular problems, isn't it? Well, look, once again, thank you ever so much, Ian, especially for coming, both for the project and the original talk that you gave us. You can see all the interest that you've given you and the inspiration that you've given people to give this a go, because it can make the difference for some people between having a good QSO and not. And so thank you very much for that, and for coming on tonight as well and answering all these other questions. I didn't expect you to come on and have to work quite so hard, really, but we're really grateful for you coming on, Ian. Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much for asking me. It's always a pleasure to see you guys, and Ralph will be in touch. So I'll pull out now, and once again with my thanks and a very good night.
Yeah, many thanks, Ian. Well, we're about to come to the end of the program now, so thanks to everybody at home there. for joining us, and thanks to you, of course, if you're watching on BATC or Facebook as well. Thanks for joining us. Just to quickly go over what we're going to be doing next week on the club. We've got, of course, on Sunday, we've got the GB Tourist News at 7 o'clock, as always, on GB3MB at 7:30. The Monday Night Net with Steve M7 CNI hosting. At 8:30, the 80-metre CW net on 3.543 megahertz. And next Wednesday, the 9th of February, here on NARC Live, we have Old Ham Radio Gear. Why do we bother? Now, I don't know whether that's rhetorical, or whether it's why do we bother, or why do we bother? We'll find out next week, because Steve G3ZPS is going to come and tell us all about it. But, and don't forget to send us your stories and your pictures and your projects, and still not too late to give us some feedback on your filters as well, as and when you build them. But we'd like to thank you very much indeed, and that's about it, Tammy, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
From us. So once again, thanks for joining us for NARC Live. Until next Wednesday at 7:30, from Tammy M0TC.
Goodbye.
And from me, David G7URP. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.